Okay. All right. Well, welcome everyone to our Santa Clara October CWG meeting. Thank you for making it out in person and online. Really appreciate your time here today. Going to go over the agenda really quickly here. And thank you for those of you who joined our October 8th and 9th meetings as well. I know those were you'll see a lot of similar content, but we wanted to bring you up to speed on some newer content specific to Santa Clara here today. So with that, we're going to go into our welcome and introductions like we normally do. We'll have a phase 2 update from Bernice. And then the bulk of our time, we're going to focus on aligning the project with available funding. So taking a look at our cost saving candidates, we have some more renderings and station design updates to share with you all. And then we'll have our typical CWG member report out as well as next steps. So pretty straightforward and similar to our usual structure. With that, we'll go through our roll call. I think I saw Anna online. If you want to introduce yourself, Anna.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anna Vargas Smith, Chair for CWG, Santa Clara Station. Good to see everyone again.
Thanks, Anna. And Sean, do you want to introduce
yourself?
Yeah,
Sean Collins with Santa Clara University.
Thank you, Sean.
Hi, Sean.
Yeah. And then I believe Todd, you're the next person. I don't think other folks.
Yep. Hey, good afternoon. My name is Todd Trickell. I'm with Hunter Partners.
Thanks, Todd. And then also want to recognize our DRC members that are here virtually and in the room. Thank you for taking the time to join us. I know, Anna, you already introduced yourself, but I do see Jeanette is online. If you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jeanette Coran. I'm a project manager with Santa Clara University.
Thanks, Jeanette. And Rob.
Yeah, Rob Mayer, representing Reclaiming Our Downtown.
Thanks, Rob. All right. And before we get into it, I do want to go over some of our upcoming meetings. So our next regularly scheduled CWG meeting is November 14th. And I'll send out more details to come. You should have already received the invites if you haven't, so please reach out if you didn't receive those. And then upcoming, we do have the rescheduled 1010 Oversight Committee meeting, which is actually happening tomorrow at 10 a.m. And then we will have a Board of Directors meeting on November 7th, as well as a November 8th workshop meeting. So a lot of meetings upcoming. And then also wanted to give you a heads up that we will be having a project-wide community meeting. There will be a virtual option on December 2nd and a in-person option on December 4th. So we'll send out more details to come on that, but just some bigger meetings to have on your radar. And then just wanted to provide some meeting objectives for you all. So today we just want to give some additional information and insight on the materials that are going to be presented at tomorrow's oversight. I know we've already shared a lot of those updates at our 10-8 and 10-9 meetings that some of you joined. But again, some of a preview and additional materials that we'll share. And then also just providing the space today to hear your input and your feedback that we'd love to gather. And wanted to also give you a heads up that we do have comment cards for those of you who are in person. I believe you all received one, and Tiffany will be sending out our virtual version of this comment card when the time comes. But just know that this is a way for you to provide additional feedback. We'll have plenty of space for discussion. So if there's anything that you have reservations on or, lingering thoughts, please feel free to leave your thoughts there and we'll collect them virtually or in person at the end of the meeting. So with that, I'll pass it off to Bernice for the phase 2 update.
Great, thank you. So we'll go to the next slide. So just wanted to let you know, and we just actually had a meeting with our risk review team, just looking at all the things on the project that pose possible risk to like cost or schedule. We go through item by item. And we have the PMOC as our project management oversight consultant. They're sort of like an auditor that the FTA has hired to really look at various aspects of the project and make sure we're doing our due diligence in managing every aspect of the project. So we have regular risk review meetings and refreshes as we prepare to submit everything we need for our full funding grant agreement. They also do like over the shoulder reviews of documents and reports. We, in late September, many of our team members, Tom and our new Chief Government Affairs Officer, went to DC and did some briefings of congressional delegation, just really promoting the benefits of the project, where we are, strategies for moving forward, just keeping them in tune so they can be supportive and help advocate when we do this application to get our $5.1 billion. So they met with senior staff at the FTA headquarters and Region 9 to discuss the strategies around the timeline to get our full funding grant agreement and what we're doing to really look, as you all know, we, and I'll share a little bit more as we go over the funding. We had a funding plan that was based on a higher federal contribution. The federal government has committed to giving us, once we meet all the criteria, $5.1 billion. We have a current gap of $700 million. Part of this effort is related to closing that gap. And we're looking more fully at cost savings related to things like the tunnel that aren't as passenger experience oriented, but there are a few elements that we can hopefully gain in cost savings related to some of the station attributes. So part of the process in looking at these cost savings is really engaging the community stakeholders, the board. And so, as many of you know, and we're appreciative, we have asked for a little more engagement from you all because we had the board referral back in May regarding really engaging our CWG members and getting feedback. We've talked a lot about this group about really not rubber stamping things, but really getting your input, and those comment cards are one way. So we had the series of October, which were additional, we're calling them, what are we calling them? Augmented?
Interim CWG.
Interim CWG meetings. So we had those. We're having the oversight committee meeting tomorrow, which there'll be a basic report out on the feedback we've gotten to date from the CWGs. We have a November 8th board workshop, which will really be about couple items like the schedule to get to this FFGA. That is really the primary focus on this project. And that's why the funding elements are so important, because we have to have a funding plan to make that submittal. And then we'll dive in to some other aspects of the project, looking at the path to get there and these cost saving efforts. We'll be holding our regularly scheduled, those dates that Kristen just gave you for our November series on the 12th, 13th, and 14th. We will have a broad, we have not engaged. 28th Street, we had the community join in some various features of the 28th Street station, but that was really focused on that station area. But we have not, since we had that meeting and then the earlier, what was it, March of 2023 for our CTMP for Santa Clara, we have not really reached out to the general public to update them. So we have decided on a very central location, the San Jose Chamber of Commerce, on December 4th for in-person. And this will be a broad overview of the project in general, all of the actions we've taken over the last few months, looking at these various cost savings efforts, getting the public input and getting a broader public input now. So that we can report that. The board of directors will be having a meeting on December 6th. So it'll be just before that. So they can really hear what does the broader community think in addition to our CWG members. And I think we can go to the next slide. This is our funding plan that I had mentioned to you. So the FTA New Starts, that is the federal program that we're applying for this grant. The government has said they their commitment, once we meet all the criteria for this program, is $5.1 billion. We've looked at some additional local Measure A money, but if you look over, we've got our all local money, the state money, regional money, that little gray area, literally the gray area. $700 million. We are trying to close that gap in two ways, both looking at some cost efficiencies, as I said, really focusing more on tunnel and things that are not as passenger oriented. That's where a lot of the cost savings, the yard at Santa Clara, right? Looking at that, and then doing some refinements, efficiencies related to some of the station attributes. So about, I don't know, Greg, do we want to, we're looking at maybe 400 or 500 million so far. We think somewhere around there of what we've gotten as far as savings, and we've applied for a couple grants right now. We're in the process of that to get some grants like through Caltrans and others. So hoping to get some money coming in on the other end. So that's where we're on. We'll keep you up to date on where we are at closing the gap.
All right. Thank you, Bernice. Any questions or comments on this section before I move along?
I guess I'll ask a really dumb question. Have you ever explored this idea of like naming rights for your stations? I mean, you think about what Levi's has done for hundreds of millions of dollars for, is there any type of opportunity there? Or am I just smoking crack?
No, and Greg, you might, like, I know we tried to actually name the VTA light rail station at Levi's and we were not successful.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know as far as station sites, if we've looked at the revenue possibilities for naming rights, but there is a naming convention, so I don't even know if we could, right? Because BART
has a
naming
specific
convention.
naming
Yeah.
convention, so the naming of the station itself would be what it is. However, you know, there
Could be a plaza or
could
something.
be something, right,
Yeah.
that the program could look into or VJ could look into. Signage,
Like instead of Orchard
Et cetera.
Plaza Station, it could be
Exactly.
like the,
And
yeah. Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah.
Santa Clara
Yeah, something.
University
That's right.
Broncos.
Right.
Plaza. Yeah.
That's right.
Tap in your endowment. You can cover that cost.
Totally.
I mean, it's definitely something I mean, I think that would have to be, like, that commitment would have to, you have to have the money secured.
Exactly.
So I
That
don't know if
takes
it would be
years to
time,
put together.
But we could, I mean, it would be something that we could look in the future as we're doing public art, you know, maybe
Agreed.
that's something that we could do for sponsorship of public art, is some way we could do that, right? Because that's not part of the Central Pro, but yeah, we have to basically have those funds identified and basically secured, committed. So
By when?
when we send our application in, so we have to have our full funding plan. So in the next few months, we
Yeah.
have to, yeah.
do we have the schedule for the FFGA on this deck? I don't think we do.
No, I think we're
It'll-
fine.
Yeah, that'll be presented at the board workshop.
So it sounds like that you have a pretty high level of confidence that your submittal will be satisfactory to get the 5.1 billion.
That's what we're going for.
All right. And then how long do you think it takes you to find out? Is there?
It's about 6 months, right, from our application?
Right.
Yeah, we basically kind of do, we have to have a risk refresh, like we show where we're at, right, with the design and everything, and then where our cost projections are, and we do like a risk refresh, and then we can submit our application. And then once we submit that, then it's about a 6-month process for them to evaluate
Mhm.
every aspect, and then say whether they're gonna execute the full funding grant agreement.
If they didn't, then it'd be what, back to the drawing board?
As far as if they say they're not going to
Mhm.
execute the full funding grant agreement, I don't think it would be back to the drawing board. I mean, the federal government has already basically given us permission to spend like money on like securing the tunnel boring machine, and that was $75 million. We are soon to be looking at building the shaft, right? We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars that they've given us permission to spend. So it may be more about the timing, but this has been looked at as like a priority project for the region. So I can't foresee them not funding it at some point. I just think it's more about the timing, and I don't know if you want to.
And there's other steps that have been taken, right? So this next step is not the first one that's been taken. So we've already submitted for the preliminary engineering process. We've been accepted in the program. The FTA came back with the 5.1 billion. So they've already seen everything we've done. The next step in this process is just called the full funding grant agreement, the FFGA. So that next step is going to happen at the end of this year and into early next year. As Bernice mentioned, we'll do a risk assessment, a risk refresh in Q1 of 2025. They'll make sure that the contingencies that we are projecting for a year of expenditures, because all of these dollars are really, you know, based on the next expending them over the next 15 years. So there's various, you know, escalation clauses and contingencies associated with those things. And so they look at the risk and they say, okay, you've got X amount of dollars in the bank. We're going to give you Y amount of dollars. Is the whole thing adding up to Z? Okay, that's what you're estimating the cost to be. You know, we don't have hard costs for the actual construction values yet. We're doing our estimates based on the current designs. We'll get those hard costs once we release the contracts. So that's the whole assessment process. Then they go ahead and give us the full funding grant agreement. And then we can go ahead and execute a lot of the other contracts. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I think that was a really point. Like, there's been many steps along the way, and we just got advanced into, like, basically now we're in the final step.
Okay.
So it's basically, we've gotten sort of the nod and the endorsement up to this point. And so now once we have that funding plan, that's kind of the last phase of this.
Questions? Any folks online with questions or comments? Feel free to raise your hand or enter it in the chat.
Hey, Brent here. Todd, just to respond to your interest on naming rights, we actually do have a VTA policy. We did an RFP, I think, in 2019 and didn't get a lot of interest from proposers. But we include all of our assets at the BART station. That includes potential transit centers, but it did not include the stations themselves, just FYI. So little history there.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Brent. All right, with that, we'll move on to our next section. I'll pass it off to Greg to go through our aligning the project with available funding.
Great, thanks, Kristen. So I just want to, you know, we did present, I think, one slide at the previous CWG meetings that we held in conjunction with the downtown and 28th Street stations. One or two slides, and I just want to make sure that, you know, this package has got some additional rendering, some different things we'll look at. We do want to maintain our passenger experience. We do want to, you know, facilitate all the accessible design criteria we've established. We do need to hone in our cost savings a little bit. And so that's what we're looking at in terms of kind of what we've been able to accomplish through the DRC process or the design review committee process, and then where we're at now based on some cost savings requirements that the program has to go through. So we've done that over the last few months. We've coordinated with BART on some additional criteria and evaluations that have some impact, mostly in the yard, not so much in the station area, head house area, but most of the things we've done or will do are in the yard area. So we'll kind of get into, these are some of the criteria we used. Again, the cost savings, dollar values. We looked at O&M costs and impacts, the access and orientation, the TOD opportunities, which is really for the other stations. We don't really have much TOD opportunities here. And then the station presence. So we want to make sure that we're kind of keeping that station head house presence, and also the passenger experience. Also looked at sustainable design practices and sustainability management. So those are some of the things that we use to evaluate some of the changes that we worked on. So what we decided that we would move forward with is refining and optimizing a little bit of the station entrance building, the rooftop canopy area, and also a little bit inside the station infrastructure facilities, and that's inside the garage. So you don't really see that publicly, but that's one of the things that we did over the course of the last 6 months to really kind of get our costs down and refine some of those things. So those are the things we worked on, and then also to try to utilize the most effective materials. So that's for an O&M perspective as well as capital costs. So we looked at maybe a reduction of the overall head house footprint by about 50%. That was kind of a real swag number to try to reduce costs. We don't want to reduce it that much, but we do think we need to reduce it a little bit. So right now, the previous proposal was to cut that station head house down about 50% in terms of square footage. But we want to bring that back up to maybe a 20 to 25% reduction in overall square footage. And so that's where we're at now. And those are the concepts that I'm going to show you. That helps with O&M costs. It maintains the same access and orientation. It reduces the station presence a little bit just because it's not quite as big as it used to be. But it maintains a general equal passenger experience as well as sustainability practices. So the next slide kind of shows that. We used to have one entrance area facing Brokaw Road. We've simplified this a little bit, kind of allowed for two fare gate scenarios, one facing Brokaw, the other one facing east onto Champions Way. We think this splits up the ridership appropriately for those who are going to be going west or north or upwards on the screen out to the Santa Clara University, and then those who will be going west or out to the Champions Way and out towards Brokaw. So that's kind of one of the refinements we did, and kept that station plaza area intact, but kind of refined the overall footprint of the head house area.
Is that so because it's smaller, but you could still process the same volume of people?
Yeah, correct. So it's a little bit smaller. We moved the, I know it's maybe a little tough to see, but we moved the station agent booth, which is shown here in this square, kind of over to the corner over here, and then split those fare gates. And I have some other exhibits that show a little bit more detail. So this is the refined design on the right. Again, we do maintain that same plaza area where we've got some ability to put in some future kiosks. We've got ability to have a lot of landscaping out here, kind of a real open area. We are maintaining the orchard pavilion concept. We do show the medallions here that we kind of worked with the DRC team on. The actual head house itself would maintain that leaf-like structure. And we've also got our overhang here that we've kind of worked through. So that's where we're at. Again, I just wanted to reiterate for those who maybe weren't involved with the DRC, these are the things that we kind of wanted to incorporate and continue to keep as part of the station head house. We wanted to blend an agricultural and technological theme. We also want to have a unique station, stands out a little bit different than the other stations, and also has an easier maintainability. Kind of wanted to keep that indoor-outdoor feel, also use some warmer tones. We're not going to talk about color today or anything like that. We could talk about that stuff later. Most of the images we'll show you are just going to be in black and white. We will have some Santa Clara signage. They'll be wrapped around in various aspects of the program, either on the station garage itself or as you enter and exit the station. We would have that plaza area, which I just talked about, incorporate some of the tree-like elements, and then make sure when we do show these elements, we want to make sure we're showing all of the elements that BART is going to require, including signage, as well as along the station platform and interior, and then provide those infrastructure for the future kiosks. I know that was where some of the big things that the DRC team and the CWG previously, I think, had indicated that we want to keep forward with. So again, this does capture the majority of all these items. And so here's a layout of the overall station itself. Just to orient folks, north is to the right of the page. Brokaw is running in a north-south or in a kind of up and down area here. We've got our Future Champions Way on the downward side. Coleman is essentially parallel to Champions Way here. And then the Caltrain tracks are on the upper side of this slide. This would be the large platform here, 700 feet long. About, I think 40 or 50% of it is covered with the canopy. And then we've got our head house canopy down here at the end. So this is just an update of what we talked about. We reduced the canopy size a little bit. We've kind of refined the orientation to allow for that east-west as well as north-south entrance and exit. We've really refined the structural configuration of the head house itself. We used to have some trusses that were hidden. We've kind of made it a very clear and simple span structurally. So that increased our efficiency there quite a bit. We do have one consolidated central skylight. That's an option we have shown. I think we can continue to work with the team on that. And then we need to further refine the garage facade and the signage. So some of these slides will show some signage in various locations. Don't hone in on that. We need to continue to refine that. And I do want to make everyone aware that the intent is still to keep the facade program on the garage. We just need to refine that a little bit more as we move forward. And then here's again the open plaza concept down in this area. We've got some options for landscaping and trees out here. These little circles are kind of some orchard pavilion concepts where we've got some medallions in the concrete. We'll have some various elements of concrete out here that'll be architectural in nature. We've got our 2 kiosks that will be provided infrastructure to those for future use, and then again our 2 entrances here. We also have plenty of bike storage in this area here on the western side, as well as in bike storage interior location, which will be right in this area here. So this is kind of the current concept. This shows the garage facade still prominent in the area. Again, we do need to look at that a little bit and refine that. We may not be able to have all of those leaves and those sizes, but that's what we want to continue to maintain. We do have some trees showing in the foreground. They are showed as kind of see-through. And then this is kind of the reduced head house, which is still fairly large, as you can see. And we'll go through some more renderings here.
Is there rooftop parking or is it all enclosed?
There will be parking on the roof of the structure, yes, currently.
And so are you putting PV panels up there, or is it just?
There will be an option to allow for PV panels up there. It'll probably not be part of the current
Initial.
Yeah, won't be part of the initial build out, but it'll be potentially leasable.
I see.
So we'll put our conduits in, we'll put our rooms inside the facility to allow for the switch gear and everything else we need. But then that would be
That's how we did various LPs.
yeah, same thing. So we're gonna future proof for it. And so that's how it'll kind of get built out.
And what other mechanical equipment do you expect to see up on the roof of the station?
The only other thing up on that roof really is I'll go backwards. It's mostly the elevator elements. Most of the mechanical equipment and gear and electrical for the whole BART facility is inside this gray area, this back of house area. So this is kind of where all of our equipment will be, all of our stations elements for train control. This will all be housed in this area here.
So kind of the ground floor. Where
Ground floor, and then there'll be some transformers and some elements out here that'll be at grade. We need to keep some of those things at grade so we don't have maintenance issues with those heavy transformers. They will be screened, so they'll have some screening around them.
Do you want comments on the design, at least where it is now, or?
Yeah, I got a couple more slides.
Yeah,
Let me just go
okay.
through it and then we can kind of all talk through it
Sounds good.
together. Here's another view, looking at the station entrance area, looking west. And then here's a concept rendering here, looking kind of in the southwest direction from the bike lane on Brokaw.
Kind of from the northeast corner, right?
Yeah, kind of from the northeast corner of that kind of Brokaw bike lane. And then this would be at the top of the ped ramp. So the existing pedestrian undercrossing that goes underneath Caltrain would remain in place. We would rebuild the ramp, widen it out a little bit. And then this is kind of what it would look like as you come up and around that ramp. There's quite a bit of bike, like I say, bike parking on that western side of the station entrance area. And then this is kind of a general concept of what the platform would look like. We've maintained that same elliptical leaf-like shape for the actual canopy itself. Whether or not this has, you know, an end condition looking exactly like that or not, I think we can still work through those details. But this is kind of what that looks like. As you can see, there's some various signage remnants or artifacts up in the upper right side that show, you know, some possibilities for signage along the facade there. And this would be the opening day configuration. Again, this is at the corner of Brokaw and Future Champions Way, looking in the southwest direction. And, oh, the next slide shows the concept for a couple of commercial kiosks that could be located out there, and you can see those in light blue. I wanted to show the opening day condition and then the future kiosk location condition, where we could have one or both of those up and operational. Okay, just in terms of dollars, when we went through all the station aesthetics programming, we added about $5 to $10 million. You know, and what we're trying to do is keep the same general concepts we had as part of the DRCs, but not add any money, you know, and really by refining some of these things, we can get down to where our budget was, but try to keep as much as possible. So that's where we've been a little bit, like I say, more efficient with the back of house and things behind the scenes and we saved some money there. So we're trying to keep those and get those back out into the public facing areas.
So, are you proposing the design and to maintain the station aesthetics?
No, yes, so I guess this concept, you know, maintains the station aesthetics as much as we possibly can, but then doesn't increase the cost.
Okay.
Because we've been able to kind of refine things a little bit and kind of tone it down a hair.
Okay.
Right? So this gets us back to even, so to speak. But no, this is kind of the proposed configuration. And again, the garage facade, it still needs a little bit of tweaking. We may need to reduce the spacing of those panels a bit. They're, I think, at a foot or two. We may need to increase them a little bit, maybe not quite have as many, maybe not have all of those leaves, but we definitely want to maintain the majority of them. So we will leave it up to comments from the group on this. And maybe we can go around the room here and then go online, or what is the process?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Do you want to kick us off, Sean?
Well, I wasn't involved on this group during the early phases, so I'm coming into this seeing kind of what this looks like now. So I'm kind of deferring to those folks that were involved in that and their input. If it's as you say it is, and how you stay true, it seems positive.
You want me to start?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I'm okay with shrinking the station. I mean, that's, the soul is still somewhat there. I would say that the gridding of the orchard, right? Because we're doing medallions where there would have been trees, and we're doing the modern trees underneath the canopy, and then the real trees on the side there, just to make sure that the grid carries through. And you know, the skylight, I see it as, you know, it's a big rectangle. You could still just do circular cutouts on the ceiling side on grid or on orchard grid. So just take a look at that, and to preserve the orchard kind of gridding as best possible. I'm not going to get a tape measure and measure it.
Yeah,
but,
no, I just
but you know,
we wanted to make sure we showed them.
Yeah.
So it's definitely part of the concept.
Yeah.
And what those medallions are, we still don't know what they are, but
Yeah.
they would be something. And we'll make sure they're on grid, and then align those with the trees.
And then carrying into the canopy again, same thing. Because as I was looking at the plan, things weren't
Little
necessarily jiving, but I get it. I just wanted to make that point. And then also, of course, the profile of the leaf, or the end of the canopy, just, I'll say it again, is that, you know, the veining of a leaf is not straight. They're splayed, or they're V-shaped, right, when they come up from the stem. So just so that it looks a little bit more organic, even though it isn't. So that's on both, and I would be a fan of not doing, you know, matching that, you know, where you have the stem down the center, or whatever it's called, also on the
curve.
the viewing area at the track, you know, whatever that canopy is.
the end of the platform.
Yeah, either that, or maybe you don't even do it there. I don't know. I
Yeah,
mean,
it just started to get a little small.
Yeah.
So I think that's why the team kind of just had one set of vertical spines, I'll call them for now, but
I might
it's
just
something to work
get
on.
rid of it and do something a little more creative on that profile.
Sure.
So, because there's always a point of, it doesn't make any sense. Like
Yeah.
you said, there's a thinness to it. Maybe it's not going to make sense.
Right.
So what do we do with that? I don't mind the tapered columns. I mean, of course, I love more of the branched columns under the canopy. I get a cost thing. It's kind of a bummer they're not here as well. I don't know what the cost differential is, but there's something nice about them. Again, it's maybe the curve, and that it just adds a more natural, you know, curves are sexy and kind of fun. So, and so as the overall, like I get it, you know, maybe some leaves aren't going to be on the parking garage. I guess for me, it's always, when I think about design, it's like, well, how much money do you have? And then it's a give and take, you know, do I take away from this to give to that? And so the key is just to be strategic about the leaves, so that, you know, maybe the most important ones are the ones that face Caltrain, you know, so people see it, and maybe they're, you know, times of year they're colored a certain way or backlit with LEDs, and then also facing, you know, gateway crossings and everything. I would say those are the most important storefronts of that big boxy elephant, I call it.
Yeah.
So
so I don't know if these ones are going to be the most effective here, because we have the leaves here. So that's where I kind of wanted to open that up and just say, like, this one may not wind up where it's shown.
Yeah.
Maybe this one gets a lot smaller, but the emphasis could be on the western and eastern facades.
Yeah. And so as you're progressing and massaging things, what is the review process in terms of like the DRC, and how is this all going to work moving forward?
So we right now, have to basically get a cost basis, right?
Yeah.
And there will be more opportunity within that cost basis for some of these. It'll be kind of like the trade-offs, right?
Yeah,
Right, because right now we just need to figure out that, right? And we'll have opportunities further along as we advance the design to.
Yeah, I think this essentially establishes kind of our baseline condition, and then we'll continue to work through this. I think we said the Q1 2025, so in the next 3 months, we'd probably be able to sit down and do another DRC round.
Okay.
You know,
Sounds good. Yeah, thanks for your work.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah.
Any comments, Todd? on your
Sure.
end?
My first comment, it's nice not to be on opposing sides with Rob right now because usually we are, so.
We're all going towards a good goal.
This feels good right now, Rob. So just a couple of items that I noticed. So on the right-hand side, I think those are bike racks. Is that true?
there will be some racks. There will be a lot of
Lockers? Good answer.
and then there will also be, as I mentioned, an interior large locker room in the corner of the station.
Awesome.
So there'll be kind of 3 different types of bike scooter parking areas here.
Great.
Individual lockers, there'll be some racks, and then there'll be this large, area with 2 deck.
I was just thinking,
Safety.
I was thinking functionality that we find that people on our campus prefer bike lockers than they do bike racks, just
Yeah.
given how expensive
Mhm.
e-bikes
Right,
are
that's
and
why you
everything else going
security.
on.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see that it's bike lockers, or there's a variety
Yeah.
that you can choose
There'll
from.
be options, and there'll be some more down in this area here too.
Yep.
So there'll be some located on this side, there'll be some, and then, like I say, the main majority of the required bike storage will be here, and then there'll be some over here at the top of the ramp.
Okay, so that's one point or one item. The other item is interior parking garage lighting.
Okay.
And just, we just have to be really mindful about how we're handling, headlights. I know there's citywide design standards and illuminated garage and how that impacts your residence next door. So we just have to make sure that we're mindful of
Yep.
that and we're just smart about it. If I had my druthers, if money was no object, I would love to see a PV, up on the roof of that garage just to kind of somewhat help soften that experience for the residents. That's me being greedy next door. I understand that you have to make sacrifices and at some point you'll have PV up there.
Yeah.
Ticket office, moving that out to the corner. I don't know if you call it the ticket office, the station manager.
Station agent booth, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's super smart because then you can get, from a security perspective, get eyes into the common area. And I think that helps the customer experience, which I think is a really good idea. And then probably lastly is just, I know previously you had some type of entrance at the end of the Paseo of the Gateway Crossings project. I know for a multitude of, I think that's true, you had some type of entrance into the station and now it's obviously been moved down. I would still love to have some type of connectivity, whatever that means. And I know there's certainly signage that you can do, but visual signage to help draw people through that project to your project versus just kind of landing our future Paseo, wherever that might land.
Is that it right there on the dotted line, right there?
So I believe we've
It's right
tried
there.
to.
Yeah, right there.
And it lines
Okay.
with the elevator, second elevator bank, right?
Yeah.
Right, so.
Yeah.
So we have, this is kind of the Paseo that comes out of the adjacent development that you're talking about, Todd. We've got our PED crossing,
It's raised.
and then it's a raised crossing. And then we have an elevator and a staircase here. That's kind of our second entrance to the parking garage itself.
I see.
And then there'll be some signage that will direct people to the right to go to the BART platform.
I see.
Yeah.
And then that wall, and you said you're trying to maintain the facade program that you've previously, so that wall it's not some CMU block wall that's just there, it's some beautiful
No.
architecture that Rob.
We've worked with Rob.
Tried to do that.
We worked with Rob for 6 months on it, and
Yeah.
we can show you some renderings that we've looked at that we've already developed, and
Okay.
we're going to continue to do that.
Cool.
So yeah, we can definitely work with you on that.
Greg, it's kind
I
of
was
like,
just curious.
you have an axiomet or a
Yeah.
perspective view of the other one, right?
So yeah, it's
somewhat.
You can kind of see it.
you can see a little bit of that down in here.
Uh-huh.
But it definitely has a prominent, vertical component.
Great.
And it splits the facade, where you've got kind of a view to the access staircase.
I see.
That might have some different color conditions to it. And then you'll have a kind of you know, an eyebrow canopy style,
Sure.
you know, that will have some signage on it as well.
Okay,
We've kept the Paseo there in mind, knowing that there was
Understood.
gonna be a connection there previously, and not to make sure that those coming through the Paseo, you know, as we're designing that sign.
land at a dead
Yeah,
end.
right.
Yeah. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Todd. For our online folks, and I'll circle back to you, Sean. Anna, do you have any comments or questions?
Yeah, I do like everything so far. I actually like the 2 entrances. I think that's a great idea. And it offers more Santa Clara signage at both entrance. Previously, it was more just one main entrance. So I like that. That's more visibility. I do like that we've kept almost every element that we discussed in the DRC. That was really important because I think this is a very unique station design. What I didn't understand, I like the idea of 2 kiosks versus 1. I mean, if we're gonna have 2 entrances, why not have 2 kiosks to help with the volume? I know we had talked about lighting before. Does lighting roll up under like the public art budget, or is it going to be included in this particular design? Because I really like the idea of backlighting the leaves so that you could see the design at night. Because as a woman, I just feel more comfortable the more light there is wherever I'm going, and it also helps me find my way. So I hope that we're still talking about lighting in the DRC design, because I think that's at night could be quite beautiful, the plaza. So we need to keep that in mind and keep it welcoming no matter what time of the day it is.
And we just talked about today, right, that we could maybe enhance some of that lighting if there was gonna be some feature lighting or something or the leaf,
Yeah.
right? Through a
Yeah.
augmented public art effort, right?
Absolutely. So, yeah, we definitely will have well-lit facilities through here, just to meet general criteria as well as BART standards. And then there's definitely opportunity for lighting of the leaves. I think we've showed that in previous iterations. These leaves could have some LED lights integrated. You know, so there's definitely some opportunity there. Whether or not we can get it, you know, some public art funding for that, that'd be great. So there's an opportunity there for sure.
And I do like the pedestrian, the platform. I know Rob had mentioned the leaf shape. Is it possible to have like some backlit in there as well?
Inside of the platform.
That canopy, yes, it might add a
On the
little
platform.
uh,
To this
that
one?
part there, yes, because
Yeah.
previously we looked at possible skylights so that it brought in some outdoor and underneath there. But if that's not an option anymore, perhaps, you know, adding interest on the front of that, whether it be lit up or some kind of art idea, that could be very interesting view.
Sure. I think if we're able to light the, you know, the station head house end cap, I would think we'd want to light the same here. I will say these pieces of signage here,
Uh-huh.
these are integrated lighting fans. So we can, I think the last time we met, we may even have shown you a nighttime view of this, but, and we'll do that again.
Okay.
All of these little elements here are LED lights. And so at
Okay.
nighttime, there'll be a very, a strip of lighting that'll light up the whole platform here. So that so the pedestrians can get in and out of that train. So this is called the SLPA, which is the signage, lighting, and public address element. It's suspended from the roof here. And like I say, it's got speakers all contained in it, all the conduits, all the communication devices, all the wiring is all kind of self-contained in this metallic box here.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right.
Real quick, can we go back to the image right at the corner of Brokaw and basically the tunnel? That one's fine as well.
Okay.
So I've noticed you don't have any trees in that particular area. What was the thought process? I'm just
There's potential for that, but there's a lot of utilities right here. Yeah.
I see.
So there's a lot of utilities that run along Brokaw, and we have a real tight corridor to get in here, and I'm not sure if large scale trees would be okay.
Sure.
If we had some surface, planter style trees, potentially, that could work.
Sure.
But I don't know about root driven trees with all the utilities here.
I see, just given the late afternoon sun and that particular
Yeah.
trajectory, that stations can get blasted with sun.
Yeah,
Maybe
good
where the
point.
bikes are, like, could you
Yeah.
do some trees there, like smaller format ones
Yeah.
against the railing?
Yeah.
Right? Because like Todd said, I mean, you're gonna get scorched.
Yeah, we talked about putting some landscaping up in this area too. So all of those things I think are reasonable and can be done fairly easily. We just, this is really to knock down the big
Yeah,
stuff.
understood.
But the landscaping, more trees would definitely take note of that. And like I say, a planter style tree is definitely easier than a root borne tree, which will impact some of those utilities, because there's a lot that are in this corner.
Going back to our online folks, Jeanette, did you have any questions or comments?
No, I would only, I like it in general. I mean, I think it went exactly where we wanted it. I'm a little sad about the skylights under the platform, but I think if we could do it with replication of some lighting or something, it'd be nice just to at least feel like they were there, because I think it added some, how can I say it without sounding, I mean, it made it lighter to me. I mean, in terms of heavy versus in terms of weight, right? It seemed lighter to me when there were some openings in that. It seems just like a really heavy element, but I mean, I get it. It's a cost saving thing. And then the other thing is, I think a lot of thought has to go into those leaves, because I think they look not like leaves right now to me. And so I think that some thought has to go into how that is representative of what the imagery was supposed to convey. That's it. That's what I have to say.
Thanks, Jeanette. And Jack, I see that you've joined us online. Do you have any additional questions or comments on your
No,
end?
I'm fine. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. I see Ron, you've also joined. Do you have any questions or comments?
Well, I think in general, I think it looks beautiful, and I think it's a job well done. Just a couple things. With the solar PV, I get the fact that it's not cost effective to do that now. We went through a similar thing on the 4-level garage that we completed about a year ago. But what we did do is we installed the conduit so that we were at a point when we were going to do that, that was all run. And, the conduit, I don't know, 4-inch PVC or something like that. It's not horribly expensive. And I also like the idea of backlighting some of the signage against a decision we made a couple weeks ago. We're going to do that in certain areas of the new academic building, and the cost was less than a 10% premium, but that's important. If you make that decision, they know up front, because they've got to wire the box and all the rest of it so they can provide power. But those are my two immediate comments.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. We will definitely be. We already have the kind of future-proofed PV array configuration as part of our current design. So, like I said earlier, I think we're going to have conduits that go up to the roof, as well as a space inside of our electrical room for the transformer to allow for that future PV system.
Okay, thank you.
Then, yeah, backlighting for signage. I think we've developed some nighttime views, and the intent, I think, would be to backlight that lighting as well. And agreed that the cost up front is reasonable, as long as we get it in up front and not try to retrofit things later.
Yeah, all you have to do is get the cities to give you a break on the permits, right? And then that'll help offset the additional cost.
Yes. Or the city could buy a sign that says Santa Clara on there. Yes, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Thanks, Ron. Sean, I did want to come back to you if you had any additional thoughts or reactions, questions, comments.
No, I thought it was reassuring from the folks involved earlier on the design that a lot of that seemed to have carried over, even with the shrinking of the footprint. So I think that's good. Landscaping, a little sterile on the outside, but that'll come along. I get it. I would never have guessed those are supposed to be leaves, to be honest. So, yeah, some improvement there would be great, but yeah, looks good. Sure.
Awesome. Any other questions, comments, reactions from folks online or in person here before we move along? All right. And I do want to remind folks that we do have these comment cards in case there's any lingering thoughts or reactions that you want to leave with us today. And Tiffany is going to enter it into the chat for our online folks. So feel free in your time to fill that out if there's anything to share. So with that, we'll transition over to Greg again for the tunnel yard and maintenance facility, the criteria for our cost saving candidates.
Yeah, so we'll just kind of go through these kind of quickly. There's not a lot of public facing elements on these. But I just want to let everybody know that we're kind of working through a lot of different alternatives inside the tunnel. We're looking at a different structural configuration to support the trainways. I'm not sure if this is going to work out in terms of cost savings and schedule savings, but these are some things we're working on. You'll never really experience this as you ride the train, but these are some things that the engineering team's looking at. We're also looking to, as the material comes out of the tunnel, as we mine the 5 miles of tunnel, we're trying to facilitate usage of that material in other areas of the Bay Area. You know, one item is the salt pond restoration program, which is, you know, north of Santa Clara and San Jose. So we're looking at different options of how to get material out there, as well as how it would be utilized. So that's just, we call it muck. It's just the muck off-haul operations. So we're looking to try to hopefully save some money in that realm.
You want to make it sound sustainable, don't call it muck.
I unfortunately am not going to be able to change that.
It's a technical term.
Tunneling
Yeah, I get it.
team, you know,
Industry standard.
the industry standard
Yeah,
likes
gotcha.
muck. I don't know why, but that's what it is. And I agree with you.
Better than
Yeah, that's why I try to say it's material that is excavated.
Organic muck.
Organic muck.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Organic muck.
Organic native
Without
material.
asbestos.
We are also looking at an option to facilitate a twin bore scenario from 28th Street out to the Berryessa station. This may or may not save us time and money. We're still looking at this, but this would essentially allow for this single bore operation to start at its current location at Santa Clara, the West Portal, mine its way all the way through downtown, and stop at 28th Street. And concurrently with that, as we do that single bore, we'd actually concurrently do a double bore scenario from 28th Street out to East Portal, and then run a second bore. So, you know, we would still always have the single large diameter single bore all through downtown, not disturb the downtown, you know, with a big open cut excavation. But there's a potential for condition from the 28th Street out to the East Portal for a twin bore scenario. Again, we're still looking at the numbers and the schedule savings on this
And
potentially.
that's like 3/4 of a mile or how?
Yeah, I think it's about, I think it's 1,500 feet or so. So maybe a little bit more than that.
How do you get the TBM out?
So we've got what's called the North Vent Shaft system, which is essentially about 120 foot diameter shaft that goes straight down about 80 feet. And that same shaft would be used to extract the single bore as well as launch the double bore. So essentially it'd be, we configure it one way to come down. We build that first. The single bore goes right into it from one side, and then the two double bores go out of it from the other side. So it is a little bit more complex to do that structurally, to build that, to you know, both intercept the single and launch the double. So there's some costs there that we need to weigh and determine whether or not this is a feasible alternative.
But the savings, where do you see a savings being?
It's mostly the schedule. So when we launch the single bore, we can then also start maybe the double bore. So by the time we get to 28th Street, that double bore would already be done. And so we could actually have some of that structure done, have some of that work done.
Timeline.
So it's the
Squeeze the
timeline
timeline.
trying to get squeezed a little bit.
I got you.
In 80 feet, is that pretty much your average depth-ish throughout the
60
entire
to
project?
80 is kind of where we're at. Yeah. We're also working with BART on maybe trying to reconfigure the yard a little bit to reduce the program build out. Maybe not have all of the storage tracks that that BART will ultimately need to operate this line. So we're working with BART on that. We show the areas in blue would be like areas that we design. We have it ready to go, and it would just be built out at a later date. So this is still ongoing with BART. We've definitely not come to a final plan, but we have gotten a lot of great feedback from BART over the last few weeks to refine the yard a little bit and make some adjustments to trackage to save us some money. So we're still looking at the cost savings here as well. But there, you know, the conditions for the station are still established. We still always have the connection to that station platform and all these scenarios.
But it does mean less train storage and less overall activity, right? With maintenance.
It could mean at the end of our project, a little bit less train storage, but ultimately it's designed to establish that final condition. There's also a lot of interior elements that we're working with the BART team on and trying to refine footprint requirements, trying to work through a variety of different elements that hopefully kind of reduce some of the facilities that we're trying to build out at most of the stations. Again, this is all kind of stations infrastructure. It's not really public facing. So any questions on any of those that I haven't covered already?
Anything from our online folks?
I was curious, some of these things are TBD, like what ultimately those costs will be.
Right.
When will you know that so that you can, what is that deadline that you need to get those numbers together to present?
So right now the design team is preparing all of the refinements, and we were getting that to the estimating team starting in November. The estimating team will spend about a month getting those estimates together. The design team will continue to progress, and then we'll meet in December, see where those numbers are, and then that would be the timeline where we currently are looking to have those TBD dollar values finalized.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
next couple months is really where we're at. And again, some of these may not prove out to be anything. They may just get dropped. We're not sure.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's all I had. So we'll turn it back over to Kristen.
Yes, thank you. So now we want to go into our typical CWG member report out. So would love to hear if there's any ways that you've been sharing any of our project updates with your communities, or if there's specific things that you've been hearing, any concerns, questions. We'd love to hear it all. So feel free to chime in if there's anything to share on your ends.
Actually, I think last time we talked about maybe like a media packet or something for the CWG members that we could use.
Yeah.
Has that come about?
Yes, so we are actually in development of that, and we're planning to officially launch that in our November series, so just in a few weeks. And you'll get some emails and all of the promotional toolkit to support that.
Yeah, that would be very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for bringing that up, Sean.
I had some hesitation. I was looking at some of the packets or the agenda packets for the previous station discussion. And
Mhm.
what I noticed was that the design drawings for this station were not what they're showing. You know, they were very simple and almost shockingly simple. And I thought, is this what's going to happen? So there was some discussion from me and my neighbors in the community of concern. So I'm glad that it's there in this packet. Because, yeah.
That's one of the reasons why we scheduled this meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was because we wanted to make sure, you know, we've established the program, and we want to make sure we're meeting, you know, the things that we've kind of worked through.
Yeah.
In the last station area meeting, I think you were out on that one. There was
Yeah.
concern about what this was gonna look like. So
Okay.
this will be good we can report back.
It was like too simplistic, so they couldn't vision it.
They weren't, didn't really look much like what we had the previous iteration, you know. I don't think it showed the leaf on the side. It's still not as organic as some of the architect's renderings, but yeah, there were things that weren't there. Just one thing not being there is enough to create concern, because it's a simple design, but it has a soul and you know, you can't just take pieces out of the soul and expect it to work. So.
Yeah, and we appreciate your understanding and patience as we kind of go through all of these cost saving candidates, really fast pace, and trying to include you all in our interim CWG check-in meetings that we've been having outside of our regularly scheduled quarterly meetings. So appreciate your understanding and bearing with us in that.
So at what point will we be able to share the slide deck that's been shared with us with people outside of our circle of trust?
Yeah, effective tonight, right now. Yeah. And I know I sent out a modified version and there was some slides that were left out of it as we were finalizing, but I will send out another PDF copies.
Yeah, this is more extensive than what was on the web, you know, what you sent us.
Yeah.
Good.
Yes, and as a reminder, all our CWG meetings are available to the public. So once we kind of have our meetings, the materials and the recordings are available for public consumption. So just for your awareness up front. From our online folks, anyone else have anything to report out or share?
Chris and I wanted to follow up on that. I wanted to thank BART for being such a great support at our Santa Clara Parade of Champions. We had thousands come out, and I heard that you had a really positive feedback from some of the things you showed, but I wasn't able to pop by the booth as much and really take a deeper dive at what you were sharing with the public. Will the results of that survey or that data collection be made available online or shared with us to share that kind of feedback?
So actually recently at our Parade of Champions, which thank you for allowing us to join you, Anna, on that just last month, we weren't engaging the public on any specific surveys, but we were just sharing project updates and letting them know just generally about the project and it coming to Santa Clara area. So nothing survey or data driven in that regard other than attendees that stopped by the booth. But happy to share that if you're interested.
Yeah, I'm interested. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll circle back with you.
Oh, I had one comment. Yeah, so when you're putting this out to the public for review, it's very important that the little sketches that the architect had done about what's behind the design, just in real simple form, would be important to share, because otherwise, you know, people see a leaf and they're like, well, okay, what? You know, so it could be really simply done on a 8.5 by 11 and just.
Are you thinking like the Robin Chang drawing?
Yeah, where because part of this was based on the Baltic Rail, where they had done a very simple birch leaf, but the way they presented that design concept was so elegant and simple. It was like 3 images, you know, from thought to concept. So it could just be something like that. Otherwise, I think people are gonna.
Like, what is this? And you kind of want to know the
foundation. Yeah. I mean, what's the backstory? It'll be an easier sell, I think. It won't make me look like an idiot. Okay.
Good point. Thanks, Rob.
Sure.
All right, with that, we'll shift over to our next steps. Did want to remind you all that our next meeting is Thursday, November 14th at 4 p.m. during our regularly scheduled quarterly meetings.
Here.
Yes,
Yes.
also here in Chesbro. And we will be going over a general phase 2 update. We'll share a little bit more on the status of what was shared today. So aligning the project with available funding. And then we'll be focusing some time on our CWG meeting format. I know that we've had a lot of meetings that we've thrown at you, especially this year with our cost saving candidates. So want to check in on the structure, the format, and make sure that we're good on that front. And then also wanted to share some general construction updates with you all, as well as do a BSV2 year in review, as it'll be our last scheduled CWG meeting. And we'll have time to kind of take a look at 2024 and a look ahead into 2025. So looking forward to hopefully seeing you all there, either in person or virtual. But with that, appreciate you all attending virtually and in person today and taking the time out for our October meeting. So thank you all for joining and hope you have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Night all.
Good night.
Right.
How's Adam doing?
I think he's doing all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,